Our problem is we take too much for granted. Did you ever stop and think how your fingers just happen to fit your hand? They wouldn't fit the person next to you. They're custom made for you. They fit perfectly. Your eyeballs are exactly the right shape and size for your eye socket, which is just as well. Otherwise, every time you bent down, you'd lose something. See? Everything fits. The bones of the spine fit together so perfectly that the openings totally protect the nerve trunks, unless something happens, something that chiropractors are concerned with, something called vertebral subluxation. Now, I'm not going to bother you with a lot of technical terms, but this is one you really need to know. Vertebral subluxation is what it's called when one of these bones of the spine, instead of being in its proper position protecting the nerves, slips out of place, just the tiniest bit, just enough to cause a breakdown in the communications between the central nerve system and the glands that are supposed to be controlled by that central nerve system. Now, what happens? When you have a vertebral subluxation, all the parts still work, but they don't coordinate quite as harmoniously. So your body's a little slow to change its chemistry, or maybe a little too fast to change its chemistry. If those nerves are irritated, you could get too much of a chemical just as well as you could get too little. It means the control mechanism is lost. It's like the control mechanism of your thermostat in the house going wrong, and you can't control the heat. Oh, I get plenty of heat. In fact, I get too damn much some of the time and not enough the rest of the time. That's what happens to the control of these organs when you have a vertebral subluxation. Now, when you have a vertebral subluxation, your body begins to undergo subtle, abnormal chemistry. The thyroid gland here makes a little too much thyroxine. The adrenal gland makes a little too much or a little too little adrenaline, a little too much, a little too little cortisone, too much, too little of this hormone, this enzyme, that enzyme. As a result, the balance of your body chemistry is a little bit off, a little bit slow. You need to change to adapt to environmental changes. You don't change quite fast enough. You eat foods and you don't get the best nutrition out of them. You can't think as clearly. We talked about the mood changes of the menstrual cycle. See, this menstrual cycle is just a tiny little hormone change. And if it changes inappropriately because control is lost, then we get all of the problems associated with this, including the suicidal tendencies and the bad tempers. And guys, don't think you're off the hook because you don't have a menstrual cycle. You do have chemical cycles that are all controlled by the brain and the nerve system. And don't think your kids don't know when to talk to the old man and when to stay the hell out of his way. For God's sake, don't talk to him before he had his dinner, because if his blood sugar is low, that's a chemical, he's going to snap your head off. When you have a subluxation, yes, you can get sick. It is so stupid to go to a chiropractor when you have a backache and ignore your lifeline the rest of the time. I even know people, maybe there's some in this room, who go to a chiropractor to get well and leave their own children home to get sick. Saying, well, the kids don't have a backache. Chiropractic is not for backaches. The only purpose of chiropractic is to find these vertebral subluxations whenever and wherever they exist in anybody, and to help the body to restore these channels to normal, to regain control over your chemistry. Because when your chemistry is back in control, you're better off than when the chemistry is not under control. That's the message of chiropractic.